Hello there.
You see how we go.
My name is Joshua Dim.
And I am Josh Benson.
And this is Hamlet Talks. Today we're going to be talking about Hamlet's level of anger channeled through his insults. Isn't that right, Josh?
That is correct, sir.
Alright, so let's get right into it.
So in this episode, we'll be starting off with Act 1, Scene 1, and progress through the book as we analyze how more revealing Hamlet's anger is in each of his insults towards Claudius and also the other characters around him.
Yes.
So, just to summarize for you, those of you who haven't read Hamlet, which would be a shame if you didn't, essentially, Hamlet finds out that his father was killed by his uncle, and his uncle is now married to his mother, which is pretty interesting. And after that, he goes on a revenge plot to try and get back at Claudius, and it ends up as a typical Shakespearean tragedy does.
Yes, indeed. So, as shown in Act 1, there are two major quotes which show Hamlet's level of insults. Of course, in Act 1, he just came back from studying abroad. He found out that his mom is married to his father's brother. He's not very focused. He can't really conjure up all his anger. He's more confused, isn't that right?
Yes, his thoughts are rather scattered at this point, and who can blame the kid, honestly?
Right. So, first quote is, Thrift, Horatio. The funeral baked meats did coldly furnish forth the marriage tables. Josh, would you like to explain that one?
I think you should go first, actually.
Alright, sure. So, this quote signifies he's talking to his good friend Horatio. He's not the level of where he will be, like in Act 3, where he's insulting the person directly. But he's saying that his mother barely waited like 2-3 months, and the meat that was used at the funeral is now being used at the wedding. Of course, this is probably not true. It's an exaggeration, but it shows how quickly his mother moved on to Claudius. Next quote is...
David Tennant as Hamlet a little more than kin and less than kind. I'm not exactly sure what that is.
So, this is in the context of Hamlet, and he's talking about Claudius. And he's saying that, you know, even though Claudius is kin, he is definitely not a kind person, because Hamlet doesn't exactly know yet that Claudius killed his father, but he does know that he's kind of a douchebag for marrying his mother.
That is correct. Especially during his wedding speech, we can approximate that the speech lasts around 10 minutes, and of that 10 minutes, Claudius dedicates remembrance to Hamlet's father, Hamlet Sr., for approximately 30 seconds. And the rest of the time, he's more bragging about how he's now with the queen, how he's going to lead the kingdom to greatness, and how he's basically so full of himself.
Now, in Act 2, Hamlet has already talked to his dead father, who is now a ghost, if you do not remember. By the way, this is spoiler alert, so remember that, everyone. So Hamlet is talking to his dead father, and he finds out that, yes, Claudius did kill him. And so he comes up with this plan to try to find out exactly if Claudius killed him, and he tries to come up with this crazy plan of how he's going to enact revenge. So his first plan of action is to act all crazy. This is shown in the first quote that we have, showing Hamlet's level of insults, where Hamlet is talking to Polonius, and he says,
"Excellent, well, you are a fishmonger."
Would you like to explain this quote?
Yes. This quote has two connotations. A fishmonger is, you know, the denotation of that is just someone who captures fish, where the connotation of that is Polonius is trying to fish something out of Hamlet, trying to make him emulate some sort of anger or react in some way. Bless you.
Thank you.
Act in some way that will make him seem irrational and crazy and further discredit him. And when Hamlet says and calls Polonius a fishmonger,
it's good for the video.
It essentially establishes that, you know, Hamlet is pursuing his plan to act crazy, but he's still completely sane, meaning that when he calls Polonius a fishmonger, he is insulting him and also knows that he's onto him and how he is linked to Claudius.
Excellent. I couldn't have said it better myself, Josh. Now, on to the second quote for Act 2. This is in the context of Hamlet talking to the king. And he says, "Then are our beggars' bodies and our monarchs and outstretched heroes the beggar shadows." So what this quote means is he's telling the king, no matter what you do, a beggar, a peasant, could have more meaning in life, could have a longer shadow, long-lasting impact than you. Because right now, he's saying this subliminally, you don't mean that much. You're not a good person. Your shadow, you're not going to be remembered. A peasant could be remembered more than you, which is a big insult at that time because peasants, with the low lives, right?
That's true. And also, basically, Hamlet's saying that a title means nothing. Sure, Claudius is king. Does he act like it? Obviously not. He's a total jerk. He's full of himself. And he's not very considerate towards Hamlet's feelings as well.
Alright. Next quote is from Act 3. So now we're on to Act 3, where Hamlet's really starting to get feisty.
Yeah, so just to summarize, Act 1, Hamlet's his thoughts are rather scattered. He's not really direct with his insults, but he's being passed off as crazy. In Act 2, as we just described, Hamlet's being more direct. He's kind of on to Claudius's plan, and kind of directly insults Polonius as well.
Right, and then in Act 3, it's just total anger. He's taking it out on everyone. As shown when he says to, I believe, Rosencrantz and Guildenstern, "Do you think I meant country matters?" Now, this doesn't sound like an insult directly, but back then, especially if you were the prince or the king, your country was everything. It was very nationalistic sentiment. So to say that your country didn't matter was treason. And so if you went to the audacity to say, my country doesn't matter to me anymore, that means somebody has royally screwed you over. So when Hamlet says this, everyone can infer that he's talking about Claudius, and how now Claudius is the country, he's the head of state, and so he doesn't believe in the state anymore.
This also goes to show how Rosencrantz and Guildenstern aren't really that close with Hamlet anymore since childhood, because the way Hamlet's speaking in this entire scene basically indicates that he's having his own personal problems, and yet somehow Rosencrantz and Guildenstern point the problem towards the country falling apart, where clearly Hamlet answers with this insult and kind of mockery. Said that, "Do you think I meant country? Yeah, do you think I meant country matters?" Which is obviously not the case.
Right. And would you like to do the next one?
Of course. Moving into our next quote, "It would cost you a groaning to take off my edge." So I believe he says this to Ophelia. So in this quote, Hamlet's suggesting that he's acting crazy still. Everyone believes that, but he's really calculating and planning to try and get back at Claudius. And when it says it takes off to get him off his edge, it means that he's been through so much already. The death of his father, the marrying of his mother to his uncle, that's already had such an impact on him that nothing more can really take him off his edge. Nothing more can distract him or put him off. He's really set on his goal, and nothing will deter him from that.
Right. So he's saying, like, Ophelia, I'm going through all this stuff. Why don't you give me a little pleasing? Now, if he said this in the context of a private bedroom, in today's time, not that bad. But back then, you didn't really talk to a lady like that, even if you were in a relationship with her. And also, he says this in front of a crowd. Remember, he's throwing this theater play to try to find the conscience of the king. So when he says this, a lot of people can hear him, especially the king and queen, who Ophelia really respects, and who king and queen really respect Ophelia. So the fact that he's saying this to her face is extremely disrespectful. It's disrespectful in today's time, but back then it was like a slap in the face to a woman to say, "Oh, why don't you come please me?" Next quote that is also from Act 3 is Hamlet's talking to his mother now. And he's not really allowed to insult his mother that much under Hamlet's ghost father. He says that, you kind of have to leave the mother alone. But he does try to give a little bit of jibes, right? So he says, "You're the queen, your husband's brother's wife." So he's stating a fact, but the fact is also a slap in the face.
Yeah, it's a nasty fact, let's put it that way. So obviously, as Hamlet promises Ghost Father to not really bring his mother into this entire situation, he still hasn't forgiven her for moving on too quickly, which results in his saying, this is when they're in the room alone together, right before I think Polonius is killed, and he basically snaps at her. In the movie, as we saw, he actually threw her down on the bed and started yelling at her to her face. And when he said that quote, he's basically redirecting his anger that he's feeling so far, that he's suppressed for so long to try not bring her into it, just with that nasty face, like, "Oh, you've moved on so quick, you're my dad's brother's wife. How does that feel?"
Right, it's like incest, that, you just, like, pretty much, if someone effed your sister, you'd be extremely angry. That's what it's like. You just effed my uncle when you were just effing my, father. Like, you can't do that. Come on. I mean, these are weird times in the, 1500s, but still.
I mean, even back then, the royal family marrying each other wasn't that uncommon, but the steps that Gertrude took, even in this case,
it went too far.
Yeah.
And then the next one.
This is Act 4?
This is still Act 3, I believe.
Okay. Hamlet says he says, "I am glad of it. A knavish speech sleeps in a foolish ear."
What is Act? Oh, Act 4, my bad. Act 4,
Act 4. In Act 4, Hamlet starts becoming less verbal and talks more through his actions than anything, as we'll get into further.
So in that context, he's talking to Guildenstern and Rosencrantz, and he's trying to tell them all the story, and they say, Hamlet, you're going crazy, you insulted your mother, you went too far, and he says, you know what, I'm glad that what I'm talking about is falling in a foolish ear. Pretty much calling Rosencrantz Guildenstern idiots, saying that you don't understand what I'm saying, you don't understand my speech, so why would I even talk to you?
Yeah, basically everything's going in one ear and out the other, and I think a future poet explained this, but he actually basically calls them puppets of the king. Alright, moving on to our next quote. Where are we? Okay. Hamlet says, "Of the fish that hath fed of that worm," to make the point that a king may go a progress through the guts of a beggar.
Right. So this quote is pretty much saying that, king, you're as low as a worm. You're as low as a peasant. When you die, worms will eat you, you'll decay, you'll become some kind of food for a crop, and then that crop will be eaten, and you will be in the stomach of a beggar. You mean nothing. And that's pretty deep, saying that to the king's face. After, the king finds out he just killed Polonius, Hamlet has the audacity to go out and say this.
Right. And also at this point, the king doesn't believe really much in Hamlet's craziness anymore. Like, this is very direct. Even if you are crazy or insane, to be this specific in your insult is very disturbing towards Claudius' conscience.
Mm-hmm. And then, for the last two, this is towards the end of Act 4, and Hamlet is just done. He is no more insults, no more petty talk, no more side conversations. He wants to direct his anger, and he is over the top. He is unbridled rage. So he goes out, he straight up kills, it says it right here, hold on one second. It says, Hamlet stabs the king with the poison rapier, that is said in the text. And he makes him drink the poisoned wine, because if you remember, Claudius didn't want Hamlet to find out that, he was trying to poison him. So he said, oh, Gertrude, she's just, because Gertrude by accident drank the wine, he said, oh, Gertrude is just tired, she's all nervous from you guys fighting, Hamlet and Laertes. And Gertrude, on her last dying breath, says, no, that's not true. Claudius poisoned me. And Hamlet goes nuts. There's no more words he can say. He straight up kills Claudius. He's at full rage capacity right now. And then would you like to read the...
Just to elaborate more on that, this is an example of dramatic irony, right? Because this whole situation started with Claudius poisoning King Hamlet, Senior. And now he's also poisoned Gertrude, and ultimately, in the end, gets poisoned by the very item that he used to basically fight his way through the hierarchy to come on top. And moving into our last quote, or last scene, scene 5, there's a very brief battle in which Hamlet wounds Laertes, and then everyone starts to go down. Laertes falls, and the queen collapses from the effect of the poison. The king tries to cover his tracks by saying she swoons to see them bleed.
Right. So this is what we were trying to talk about with Claudius trying to cover up Gertrude, but Hamlet's not having any of it. Gertrude says on the last dying breath, Claudius poisoned me. Hamlet goes berserk on both Laertes and Claudius. Now, at the very end, everyone's dead except for Hamlet and Horatio and a couple of other people of the court. Hamlet says, Horatio, tell this tale, make sure no one remembers it. He's got no more rage. He's dying. It's towards the end. No more insults.
Right.
It drops rapidly after he kills Claudius because he's dying and he just wants to be forgiven and he wants Horatio to live on.
Right. This part of the scene is very non-verbal. It's all actions. I've said before. He spears Claudius with the poisoned sword. Gertrude dies, so at this point Hamlet's kind of empty. He's lost his purpose. I mean, he has fulfilled his promise to his father, but he also kind of let that promise die when Gertrude went with Claudius.
Right. Well, thank you everyone for tuning in to Hamlet Talks. We had a great time. Josh Mensa, Joshua Danf, experts in history. Give us an A, Miss Tobin. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you.